Hi, welcome back to another fault analysis workshop where each week we're taking some faults. You're filling out your worksheet. So show you a copy here. So there's a two-sided worksheet. You can get that from the notes in the description below the video. For this video, you're going to need to print off 3. And I'm going to show you 3 pictures and you complete 1 sheet per picture, per fault. So that's what you need to do. Let's start and show you the first picture. So I'm just going to be referring to my picture on my iPad here, but I'm going to put that up so you can see that and just study that for a moment. So let's talk you through this picture. So we're in the blue learner car. We're approaching a double mini roundabout, and at the first roundabout we're intending to turn right, but the signal has self-cancelled. So it's cancelled itself and we're turning right, and there's that purple car opposite us about to come into the roundabout. So that's the scenario, that's the picture. Have a minute, fill out the form, and then we'll talk about it and I'll share with you what I've got. Welcome back. So I've been filling out my sheet just as you've done, and now I'm going to go through and share my thoughts on this particular picture, this fault. So picture 1. So it's really important we clearly identify the fault. Okay, so good practice would be to use a DL25, so you get kind of in the same mindset of examiners of clearly identifying, correctly identifying faults. So for this one, we're looking at section 15, signals. And so under signals, there's 3 categories, and this would be necessary because the signal was necessary. So that would be marked under necessary. And I would mark this at either serious or dangerous because the risk is getting quite high because of the purple car. If the purple car wasn't there, the pupil here could get away with a driver fault. With the purple car there, the risk of it turning in, the risk of a collision is raising the risk to serious to dangerous depending on how that situation develops. It's one of those things you just have to be there. But an important point to make, when you're delivering your lessons, you do not want to let these situations escalate to dangerous. You don't actually want to cause anyone any danger or harm at all. So you as an instructor, you would be nipping that in the bud before it escalates to collision time. Okay, so we've dealt with the fault box. The next box on the form is to draw it. Now, you don't need to draw it because you've been provided with a picture, but this is the idea of drawing faults is to get you in the practice of just sketching things out. So when you're analysing with your people, you're kind of both on the same page. What you could do with this particular junction, these double mini roundabouts, any sort of junctions near you where the potential for faults is quite high, what I do is I just have a little folder or pictures on my iPad that I can go back and refer to help me with my briefings, help me when I'm analysing faults. So you can create stuff like that on an app. There's an app you can get to create your own little scenarios, which again, I'll put a link for that in the description. It's called RosPA by Neil Beaver, okay? So yeah, so we don't need to draw it. So let's get to the risk. We already covered that. Because of the purple car being there is a real risk of a collision with the purple car. So that's the risk. Now we need to think about intervention. So what would we be doing at the time? So at the point, if you look at the slide again, what would we be doing at that point? Well, personally there, because the risk is getting high, I would physically reapply that signal. We could verbally do it, but would there be enough time? By the time we've said it, could that have people already started to turn in front of the purple car? So it might just be an idea, if we've left it that late, to physically intervene and just get that signal on. You can talk about it later with your pupil. So that's what I'd be doing for the intervention. If we turn over to the other side of the sheet and look at the analysis, this is where we look at reasons why the fault happens. It's kind of getting inside people's head really at this point. So I suggest listing 10. I've just listed a few here. I'll go through the ones that pop into my mind based on experience and just sort of working with pupils. So number one, I've put due to steering around the centre markings, the signal self-cancels. So local knowledge tells me that when you approach this roundabout, the curb on the near side fetches in to sort of kind of make you slow down. So if you can imagine driving, the curb fetches on the left, so you have to steer around it. And then because we don't want to go over the centre markings of the mini roundabout, we steer left to sort of do a little shimmy, a little chicane through the roundabout. That little shimmy and steering will often result in that signal self-cancelling. So that's experience of disjunction, knowing that's kind of what happens here. It's very common. So that would be a reason. Other reasons, people's not aware the signal's cancelled itself. So that could be something we need to look at with our pupil. Pupil's aware, but they're unable to reapply the signal. So maybe we'll look at their hands. Are they trying to go around that roundabout like that? And the stalk's on the left, and they physically cannot get that signal back on. So they're aware it's cancelled, but they just can't get it back on. Could be a reason as to why this fault happens. Another one, people trying to change gear and steer at the same time. So they come into the roundabout maybe in third, thought, oh my God, I need a quick gear here, trying to steer, signal's cancelled, can't do it. So there's just some reasons. I'm sure you've thought of more. Write them down, because this is the analysis is really getting into, rather than having a closed mind, thinking why these things happen and get into the root cause of the problem. So now we'll look at the remedial action part. This is where we pick one of the reasons and sort of think how would we specifically fix that problem. So I've gone with number 3, people unable to reapply the signal as their hands are crossed over on the steering wheel. So remedial action for that, I would now want to talk about steering technique and give the pupil opportunity to practice correct steering technique. Now there's broadly 2 steering techniques we could encourage our people to use. We could use pull push, which is like best practice. I'm sure you've all heard of that. Or rotational steering. That's the one where you go like that. Not really best practice. Some people might prefer it, as long as they're in full control and can still apply signals and steer the car. But for me, I would want to be going with pull push because it's a preferred method of steering, and I think it gives you a bit more control to feed the steering wheel through your hands and able to apply signals, horn, all that kind of stuff if you need to use them. So that would be my advice on that. And also downside of rotational, crossing the airbags go off, you can smash yourself in the face, if that happens. So yeah, so pull push. So we'd go and practice doing that. Last section, questions that we'd be asking our people after the event. So typical things I'd be asking here, do you understand why the signal cancelled, or do you understand why I reapplied your signal in that situation? See what they say. How can we anticipate this happening in the future? So talk about steering, why that happened, and if we know it's going to happen, to have our hands in the correct position and sort of preempt it. How will you physically be able to reapply the signal whilst being able to steer? So as we've talked about, so I would be asking questions around the root cause, how it's a problem, and get the people involved in how to overcome this problem, get their buy-in on it, and then we'd go practice the remedial action, go and get this sorted out. So that's picture 1. Okay, so let's move on to picture 2 now. So I'm just looking at my picture 2. I'm now going to put picture 2 up for you to study it. You can pause the video at this point, have a good look. Before you pause it, let me just explain what's happening. So, same roundabout. We're still in the little blue learner car. This time we've gone ahead at the first roundabout, approaching the second mini roundabout. And our intention is to go ahead at this second roundabout. And the pupil has put on the left signal at the point of this picture, or maybe just a fraction of it. So look at the picture, at that point that left signal is now on. So again, get your sheet, pause the video, go fill it out, and we'll talk about it in a second. Okay, so welcome back. You filled out your sheet, I've done mine, let's go through it. Same format. So let's think about the fault. So again, we're sticking in signals, and this would fall under signals correctly. Signals correctly. And because of the little red car coming towards the roundabout from our left, and we've got a left signal on, I would mark this as serious because of the risk. So let's just skip to the risk box. There is a risk of having a collision with that red car. If that red car is turning right and we're going to go ahead, then we're going to come into conflict and have a collision. So that's the risk. Serious fault. If it escalates any further, it's going to be dangerous. No red car there. Driver fault. Okay, so intervention. What are we going to be doing at the time of that picture? So at this point, if I saw their hand going towards the stalk to signal, I would just verbally say, don't signal. Don't signal. Prevent it. Prevent the red car getting out in front of us. If that's too late and you've missed your opportunity to do that, then physically turn the signal off, get it off, and that will reduce the risk of actual danger. Okay, so that's the intervention. Now let's look at the analysis box. So again, you're going to think of reasons why did the pupil put a left signal on there? So this is what I've come up with. So number one, pupil signalling to exit the first mini roundabout. So they've popped on an exit signal for the first roundabout. Number two, pupil confused where they're going, maybe coming into this roundabout, all their concentration's being used up and think, right, what am I doing, what am I doing? And by the time they've sort of got to the second roundabout, they've kind of like forgotten where they're going. So they've got a bit confused and just pop the left signal on. And in their mind, they might be thinking, I'm going to go left here. And therefore, no fault, really. If they're going left, then they've done it correctly. They need a left signal. But if they attempt to go ahead with the left signal, it's going to get very messy. Okay, so that could be a reason. Third, people accidentally tap the signal stalk. You know, just maybe got a bit muddled with their steering, accidentally knocked it, and the signal's gone on. So there's three. I'm sure you've thought of more.
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
Siri. Stop that.
Sorry, I can't.
There, good. Get rid of that. Okay, so remedial action. So now we're into remedial action. Let's pick one of them. So let's pick number one. So the pupil is intentionally signalling to exit the first roundabout. So let's explore that and fix that. So here I just re-educate the pupil. So we'd be having a talk to them, a conversation about the use of signals, and I would want to be talking about unnecessary signals and confusing signals. I'd want to put my pupil in the red car. I'd say, right, imagine you're in that red car. You see the blue car, you come in, left signal, where are they going to go? So I'd kind of open them up like that to sort of try to put the pupil from another point of view, the point of view of the car they were affecting, that they were confusing. So that could be a good way to sort of help them understand from someone else's point of view the situation, help learning take place. Questions. So the questions I'd be asking: do you understand why I told you to turn the signal off? So if we had a been Spain, I'd be just sort of, I'd kick it off with that. Do you know why? Do you know? Understand why I said what I said there? See what they say. If you were the driver of the red car, as we just said, get them to think about, well, what do you think was going on there? What would you do differently next time? And hopefully the penny's going to drop and they're going to be like, oh yeah. So rather than tell, ask, dig, get the information out, learning will take place. Great. So that is picture 2. So now we're just going to move on to the third picture. Right, we're back. Picture 3. So you know the format by now. I'm going to show you the picture. I've got my picture here. I'm going to have a look at it. So let's just talk you through the picture. So again, we're in the blue learner car. We're approaching from a different angle towards the 2 mini roundabouts. And the intention is, the direction we've given is for our pupil to turn right at the mini roundabout. So that's where they're going to be going. Okay. And what our pupil has done is put the signal on where the picture is taken there. So the signal is on at that point. That's the scenario. You now pause, go away, fill out your third sheet, and we'll meet back here in a sec and see what you got. Fast forward. Right, so I've filled out my sheets. We're going to go through. So, what is the fault? We want to correctly identify this fault. So again, we're looking at DL25. We're looking at signaling, and this time times. So we've got a full house here. 1 roundabout or 2 roundabouts, same junction, and we've got 3 signal faults in each of the areas. So we've got necessary, correctly, and now we've got a timed signal. So okay, so the pupil is signaling too early, which is going to cause confusion to the red car. So now we're into the risk box. So there is the potential, because that red car's there. Now, if we look at the red car, look at the position of the red car, and from that positioning, where is that red car indicating they're going to turn? Looks like they're going to be turning right from their position. Now, they shouldn't pull out in front of us because we've got the right signal on. But as we know, experience tells us that that red car might think, oh yeah, that learner car's signaling to come in here. I'm just going to nip out in front of him. He's going to be slowing down. I think I've got time to get out. So there is a risk of collision with red car. If we look a bit further up to the mini roundabout, the areas where pedestrians can cross, there's like a pedestrian refuge, tactile paving just before the roundabout. Maybe it would have been a good idea if I put some pedestrians in the central refuge there, because if we were signalling there, they'd be confused as well, wouldn't they? They'd be thinking, oh, that car's turning, I've got time to cross the road. Maybe there isn't time because we're coming in a bit quick or whatever. So yeah, so there's the risk. So we're going to confuse people, pedestrians, the red car, and there is a risk of a collision. Cool. So that's risk looked at. Now we look at the intervention. So gather my thoughts here. So prompting, if this was a known issue with our pupil, that we know they've got a tendency to mistime their signals, then we could give the directions, sort of say something like, okay, Howard, at the roundabout, at the end of this road at the roundabout, I'd like you to turn right. Now I want you to show me or tell me when would be a good time to put this signal on. So now your pupil's going to be thinking, okay, I've been guided here. I've got to think about when would be a good time. And the hope would be that they'd identify the junction, think, oh yeah, just after that junction. So we could prompt, guide our pupil, work on no problems. Let's say we haven't done that. We're getting a bit close. We see the hand go for the stalk, going to put the signal on. We see the red car. So it would just be a verbal, don't signal. Don't signal, just tell them. So a direct instruction. No time for a question here, just tell them. And if we've missed that opportunity and now the signal's on, turn it off or take it off yourself. If there's real risk of that red car pulling in, you just might need to turn that off yourself. So it's like with all of this, we're trying not to get to the edge of the cliff. We're trying not to let the risk escalate to a point where we're actually causing danger. As the instructor, we want to be proactive, preventative, and allow your pupil to sort of see what they're going to do, but then say, hang on, just don't put that signal on. We'll talk about that in a minute. Would be a good way of doing it on this one. So over the sheet, let's look at the analysis for the third picture. So I'm just going to list down what I've got here. So number 1, pupil unaware of the junction on the right. Didn't see it. Number 2, the pupil's understanding of MSPSL is you check your mirrors, and then you signal, and then you position, and then you slow down, and then you look into the roundabout. So they're thinking very linear and thinking, yeah, MSPSL, that's the order I've got to do it. So I'm aware of the junction on the right, but I need to get my signal on now before I start to position, before I start to slow down. So a misunderstanding of the system. Pupils being told by their mum to signal at least 6 car lengths before the junction. So they're taking that very matter of fact, that bit of information that someone's given them, they're thinking, oh yeah, that's exactly what I need to do. That is what you've got to do. So that's just from a lack of experience and thinking, right, this is what I need to do, so I'll do it. I'll replicate every time. So there's 3 reasons. So let's take one of those and think about the remedial action. So let's take number 2. So yeah, so they're just this MSPSL, it's got to be in order. So I'd have a conversation, re-educate them about how the MSPSL routine can be flexible, that we'd always check our mirrors first. So in this situation, we could check our mirrors. We might even start slowing down and then position, because maybe an early position could confuse that red car that we're going to turn right. So we might want to mirror, slow, then position, then signal, then look. LADA. We could talk about LADA. LADA, once we've given the direction. So at the end of the road, at the roundabout, I want you to turn right. Look, assess before you put that signal on, or use something out of roadcraft, the information stage that looks at tug, take, use, give. Maybe we could use that. So we take information, use it before we give it. So they're just assessing what would be a good time to give that signal. So yeah, so we could have a talk about that as our remedial action, and then go practice. Find similar junctions where there's parked cars near the junctions where you might have to mirror, slow down, position, then signal after the parked car. Things like that to get them into the mixed routine, applying common sense to the situation. Questions I'd ask. So after the event, I'd be using the visual aid, as we've already discussed. Think about the red car, get the people to see it from the red car's point of view is a good one. What can we anticipate the red car doing? Why? Digging like that. So there's lots of questions we can ask. And as we've said before, we're trying not to tell our people, oh, you made that mistake. We want to ask them and open them up, get them to think and explore and dig deep and kind of coach them so they can see it and understand it, and the penny drops. They go, oh yeah, of course, I get it. And then we go practice. Okay, so that concludes it. That's the 3 pictures. Thanks for watching. As always, if you like the content, please like it. For future content, subscribe. Comments, tell me what you want to see next, and I will endeavour to cover that. So until next time, thanks for watching.